So I thought I'd just start off by giving you a bit of background on how we've got to where we are around wellbeing, which is because my portfolio includes, and maybe click to the first one, because my portfolio includes both the safety and health space and also the people space. I kind of saw wellbeing as a pet project that I've been quite passionate about myself in terms of driving in the business, and it kind of fits in what I call the gravitational forces that keep our staff in our business. And so I put wellbeing under staff benefits, which is one of those outer rings in this model we've got for how we recruit and retain. But there's also some other stuff around kind of our employee value proposition and what our values are, which some of which are sort of through that inner ring as well, that also feed into the wider wellbeing theme. So I'll come to that shortly. So if we click to the next slide, essentially we put our wellbeing activity, it's essentially the last bullet point there, but we've actually categorised when we talk about our staff benefit offering. We've grouped a whole raft of activity that we regard as falling into that health and wellbeing space or lifestyle space, into that particular theme there. And then it's also reflected, I think, in the sort of panel across the bottom, which is talking about values, which is about what we offer in terms of career development and also what we do in terms of the people of Auckland and keeping them healthy, so the community contribution we make through the delivery of water and wastewater services, keeping the community healthy, giving back to the environment, and also doing sort of community activity. And you talked about community days. So we sort of reflect all that there. We've got reference to some of the sort of up there in the occupational nurses delivering annual medical checks and immunisations. We've got quite a generous sick leave entitlement and long service leave entitlements at various increments. A gym, additional parental leave, and that's both for both mother and father of a child or both partners. And we have EAP, which of course everybody's got now, so we lumped that in there as well. And flexible working is right at the top, which I was encouraged to see as a critical thing that staff want to receive. But I think the genesis of this has been both the drive from our executive and our board around what we're doing in the occupational health space and the increasing focus for them from a WorkSafe perspective and what they're focusing on, and also that retention recruitment piece that I just talked about at the start. So I think they've both been a driver for what we've done in the wellbeing space. So if I could click to the next one. So one of the things that we did when we developed our Watercare Your Wellbeing program was we actually thought really carefully about branding it. So we decided there was a whole lot of activity happening in the occupational health space, but we wanted to align what might otherwise have seemed like quite disparate activity into a single strand. So we've got this noticeable Your Wellbeing brand, and the ethos for that is essentially the ripple effect, and that the health and wellbeing is more than just your physical health. It's about getting on and enjoying the best that life's got to offer. And we offer essentially some initiatives. Some of them are just basically educative or the provision of information. We've run competitions. We've had some men's health days where we actually had people on the spot were prompted to go up and do something straight away, which was that was one of our most successful campaigns, interestingly enough. I didn't think it was going to be. But also that getting fit and being involved in your community and around that whole mental wellbeing space, and saying, well, we make the ripple effect, and that has an effect on our staff member and then their immediate family and then out into the community, which is actually quite aligned. And excuse my Maori pronunciation's not good, but I think it's called Hauora. I always pronounce that wrong, but is it Hauora? Yeah. So, and that has a similar concept of, those sort of concentric circles that reach out from the individual's wellbeing. So that's our essential branding, and any messaging that we do on it that goes out to staff goes on an email under that branding, and we also use it for banners at things that we're doing. So just bringing everything all together. Maybe the next slide. So what we've kind of covered is, and this is a conceptual drawing because we still really haven't got this worked up. So this is literally scribbles, everybody, excuse me, because we're on the journey, which I'm sure some of you are on as well. And so what we've done is we've essentially got the two hemispheres, which WorkSafe has also adopted a similar approach, but we've added a few more segments and looked to try to align things that perhaps might have a common solution. So the rings in green around the outside, you might have gathered that I'm really big on diagrams and graphics because I'm kind of a big picture person, so these suit me, but the green rings are essentially mitigations to deal with, or programs to look to mitigate the risk represented by health impacts on work and work impacts on health, and they're divided into all those categories that you'll all be, I'm sure, familiar with if anybody's been looking at this area. And then we've looked to think about what programs might actually tick more than one box. So we've tried to think about, there's some allegiances there between, stress, fatigue, mental health issues, and drug and alcohol. So they all kind of lump together. You could end up with that being a self-perpetuating cycle if you're not careful. So we've thought about that. And essentially, what we've done is we've really just delivered a program of information and sort of awareness, coupled with our historical work that we've done around pre-employment testing, regular medical testing, and obviously we have people exposed to wastewater risks and all the human waste elements, which have got a whole lot of disease factors, and there's also chemicals. So, but we've actually sort of stopped 9-10 months in, and I've actually just recently engaged, so I was encouraged to see this is what I should have been doing from the start, but we kind of launched in and did it, and then I sort of had pause and thought, well, we really don't have enough structure around this, and maybe we're not doing enough in the occupational health space around how do we measure the outputs, are we discernibly creating value. We've done all this on the smell of an oily rag because we have no budget for it, so I can sympathise with those that use Google because I think we adopted a somewhat similar approach. But we've now actually engaged an occupational health nurse who's practiced in this area, and she's doing some gap analysis work for us around what we're doing around occupational health, and we'll then flesh out a more defined strategy and plan of activity. So it's kind of been launch in, have a go at some stuff, and then sort of think, actually, that's really good. And we've had fantastic feedback from staff. I get really positive feedback on the caring for staff bit. Which you'll see that, actually back on the byline is I care, we care, Watercare. So it's that whole caring for staff thing. I've got one more slide, which was just the standard business case for care, which we've kind of run, although my personal view is it's just the right thing to do, but these are all the standard ones that you say will give you paybacks. We don't have any metrics, but this is certainly what I say whenever anybody says to me, why are we doing this? If they're a skeptic, I say, well, did you know you'll get lower, so I run through the list, and I'm sure you're all familiar with these. So on a journey, made a start, branded it, but now looking to place a little bit more structure around it, and certainly incredibly well received. I think it has been one of the really good things we've done around improving sort of engagement. People will comment. I was saying to someone just before, people have said things to me in the lift. So like I met someone new that I didn't know who turned out to be from customer services, and they shook my hand, and then they said, I introduced myself, oh, you're that GM that cares about the people. So it's quite nice when you get that feedback. Anyway, that's me. So I don't know if you do questions at the end.